executive assistant, virtual executive assistant. I'm here with my executive assistant, Kai. Kai, you want to say hi?
Of course. Hi, everyone. This is Kai, Ethan's assistant, and we're here to discuss, stuff about, well, what an EAVA is about.
Great. Well, I'm excited to dive into this. I do have a PowerPoint prepared. Just going to put my phone on silent. I do have a PowerPoint prepared. If you want it, I'm happy to share with you my notes deck. If you did end up hiring an EAVA from us and you want to have sort of what I was guiding myself with, I'm happy to share this information with you. But I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the prize here and talking more of a conversational approach with Kai on ways that I use an executive assistant, virtual assistant, what I've learned over this last year and a half, hiring executive assistants in person and having it not work out, and hiring somebody that has been working out great. So I'm going to dig into it. So, you may be here because you have emails piling up. Maybe people can't get a response from you on Slack, Teams, or other communications channels. Maybe your calendar is just sort of chaos and it's really hard to find 15 minutes, a half hour, or even, God forbid, an hour where you can be available for a call. And maybe you're managing your calendar yourself and going in and rescheduling, dealing with that chaos. And maybe nobody knows the best way to get something in front of you that they need your decision or input on. Maybe you feel like you're doing admin work, maybe that you shouldn't be, and you don't have time to focus on high-level strategy or important work. And maybe you don't have an organization method for things that you need to get done in the day. It might be a task list. It might be, just some way that you're tracking what you need to get done, maybe outside of your case management system or outside of the system you use to do your work. So as an expectations disclaimer, we are going to set realistic goals here. There are no quick fixes to an executive assistant, and you will need to invest your time and training into this for it to work. Hopefully we can help you ramp up that process, but you are going to have to invest some time into this. There definitely is effort required. There's delegation is a mindset, and if you are having a hard time letting go of things, it's probably not going to work. So I'm going to talk about myself, then I'm going to be looping in Kai on things very specific that she does for me. So where the kind of problem started is I was spreading myself way too thin. I felt like I was kind of drowning. I had tasks, requests, questions, messages that were just piling up, and at a certain point, we're not getting done. So, Kai, when you first started with me, what were some of the things going through your head that you saw, with the way people were trying to get in touch with me, or maybe how my email inbox looked? What were the first things that you noticed? Maybe because you did join when I had an executive assistant that didn't totally work out. What were some of the things you maybe noticed?
So, yeah, the first thing that came into mind was, oh my God, the inbox is kind of like all over the place. So I cannot, for the life of me, determine which emails are important and which emails are not. Because again, I was like a newbie and everything's new to me. There are jargons everywhere, lawyer terms here and there. So yeah, basically what I did to reach where I am right now, it's like not a walk in the park, in a sense that it took me like 6 months just to make sure that I know what Ethan wants without even asking him. But even right now, I still ask him of things because again, everything's changing every single day. There's no constant in this line of work. Being an EAVA, you must be like what do you call this? If there's a jack of all trades, I'm also a Jill of all trades. So I basically need to mimic Ethan, how he thinks, how I think he would think, and what I did to do that was just practice, and I made mistakes. And those mistakes, almost cost us, but Ethan made a save, and yeah, basically, I was not perfect, and I still am not perfect. But what I was doing every day was practice and just making sure that we move on and make sure that every single day we make sure to learn things from each other and also build stuff with one another. And right now the inbox is kind of like neat, not because I know how to do things already, but I organize them. Ethan gave me the power to organize them that the previous EA did not do. So basically right now, it just takes me like minutes to go scroll things up. And last time it took me hours. So that's what this experience gave me. And yeah, nobody trained me how to do this. And no EAVA is the same. You must pair with your CEO or your client well in order to make things happen. And it only happened because Ethan and I are kind of like the same personality. He is like, quick thinker like me. And basically, so that's how we made things work. And, if something does not work, which always happens, and it is kind of like inevitable, so he just tells me straight to the point, direct to the point, no more flowery words. And that's how we get things done in a snap. So
Yeah,
basically,
I
that's
think
a
you brought
life
up
as an
important-
EAVA. Yeah.
I think you brought up a couple important things, like I think where you are today, and I believe you started with me in like around February, March, correct?
Yes, February
Yeah.
16th to be
So that would
specific.
be, 6 or 7 months in now. So, in terms of like the ramp up period, I think, if I were to give you sort of a timeline of where I saw major milestones for you, I think when you officially took over the role, which was about a month after you started with me, from that point to feeling that my inbox was at least, things were on my radar and I was addressing things the right way. Maybe my team's messages were at least getting responses. Maybe you weren't doing the response for me yet, but I felt on top of that stuff in probably 30 to 45 days. When
Oh,
you
wow.
took it over, I felt like, it took about 30 to 45 days for you to at least get putting my task list together for me down. And did we continue to iterate and did we continue to improve and have we changed our methodology? Yes. So, I think to be fair to what you're talking about, you've been with me now in this role officially for probably a little over 6 months. And there's going to be something that comes up tomorrow that maybe you needed to learn and adjust to. So, it's uh, an ongoing learning experience, but I think that by about 30 to 45 days, you kind of had my task list down, my email notifications down. Not necessarily that you were knowing the perfect answer that I would want to say, but you at least put it in front of me and I was on top of my email, my communication channels, and things like my task list. Have you improved on putting those things in front of me in certain ways that I like to see? Of course. And I may even share my screen and walk through how my task list looks when we get to that part of this presentation. But, it took probably 30 to 45 days for you to just get into everything and at the very, very least raise things to me that I needed to address. Do you think that that's fair?
I think it is. It's just that I think I was just being too hard on myself because I want to reach your expectations. I do not ever want to disappoint you. And I wanted to raise the bar. And actually, yeah, there was kind of like a learning curve, but just since Ethan was delegating things to me, he lets me do things. So that's kind of like what gave me the key to, make sure that everything's good, everything's in place, everything's all his ducks are in a row. So basically, Ethan delegated me some stuff that he was supposed to do, but he was not able to do due to the fact that again he was spread too thin. And actually, before that, I believe that he is missing some emails, missing some messages before we got everything set up. But right now, I am his second pair of eyes actually, and that's when we got things going, made sure that nothing is amiss. So yeah,
Yep.
basically.
Great. So one of my mentors who don't, they're not with us today, but they are an inspiration for me is Steve Jobs. And he said, deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. If you decide that you are going to be responsible for making sure that every team's Slack, cell phone message, lunch appointment is booked, then you are always going to be your own admin. And that is going to keep your business from growing. So this is really the foundation of what Kai helps me do. She helps me focus on the things that are what drive revenue and improve our business from where it is right now. So what did some of these issues cause? I struggled responding to emails. It made me drop the ball on time-sensitive items. Nobody knew how to get something on my plate. I was inaccessible. I let appointments I should set or reschedule stay unbooked, and I lost revenue due to these lost opportunities. I could not keep up with my mail, bill tracking, and more, and I missed a bill that dinged my credit. My Teams chats were not being responded to. So what was I told? I was told, go hire an executive assistant. This is prior to Kai. This is, a year and a half ago when I was really struggling with all these items. They said, go get an EA, somebody that can kind of wear a lot of these hats for you and get you out of the weeds on the things you shouldn't be doing. And I tried it. And what does an EA do? Really, when we ask ourselves, what do they do? Do they do email and calendar management? Do they do your task list management? Are they your HR? Are they your bookkeeper? Are they the office manager? Do they make your lunch? Do they watch your kids? Do they do your mail? Who the hell knows? And I hired somebody to wear a lot of these hats who physically was here in Philadelphia and helped me do a lot of these things. I mean, for me, it's very important to eat lunch and I forget. So I wanted somebody to help me with prepping lunch. I have this weird aversion to mail. I hate opening envelopes. It's just a thing that I don't like to do. It stresses me out. I don't like dealing with mail. I wanted to not deal with mail. So that was another thing I wanted off my plate. I just wanted someone to keep the office organized. And then there was a bunch of stuff that didn't require being in person. Email, task list management, calendar management, things like invoicing, mail labeling, and then one-off tasks that come up here and there. The outcome with these hires was failure. And it was my fault because I tried to find a master of everything. And I went through 2 executive assistants that both did not succeed. So I kind of went back to the drawing board. And I said, I am going to break this job into 2 roles. I'm going to have only the virtual stuff done by someone virtual, and I'm going to go find someone for the in-person work. So the in-person stuff was the office manager, the personal bill and business mail, personal bill tracking, prepping lunch. And the virtual stuff is kind of what Kai was going to do. Email, task list management, calendar management, invoicing here and there, mail labeling, one-off tasks. So Kai, actually, I'm going to have her talk about this in a second, is helping me wave into Arizona right now, which is just a new license. It's not necessarily on the typical EA task list, but it's something that I wanted to have her do, and we're on the last step before we do it. Reminding me of upcoming meetings with a link. I forget. I was 8 minutes late to this meeting right now, and it's unintentional. And I get links with a reminder that really helps me stay on top of my stuff. And then giving the team someone to triage things that should come to me, and just someone to nudge me to get shit done. So Kai, on some of these items, maybe it's nudging me to get things done, or, keeping my task list organized. How do you think that me giving you these things has helped free up my time or helped the business globally?
Oh, it's actually a really great thing because we do have this a note stuff that we call Evernote, and that is where we
I'm going to
put
share my screen and
everything.
walk through that in a little bit, Kai.
Sure. Yep. So yeah, we do have Evernote, and this is where we put everything on a list. Basically, it's a task list where we check out everything that is done and leave everything on your drawing board that are not yet done. So this is how I communicate with Ethan without being annoying. So, there are tasks that come up every single time, and you can't just message your CEO every single time that happens, right? So what we do is that we set ourselves up with a note. And that note is where we will communicate with tasks. So with those tasks, Ethan will check out everything that he's done and leave everything that he has not yet done again. And we also break those up by priority. So we do have hot, medium, cold. Hot for those that immediately needed attention. Medium those for, maybe respond to this in a day or two, and cold for those that needed to be, given attention in like a week or two. And we also put in notes and important links over there because, Ethan kind of like needs these links to immediately click onto because you gotta agree that keeping links on your bookmarks are kind of like, annoying, and they kind of get lost most of the time. So this is where we organize things. And also, this is where I tell him that I already did this, so you do not need to do this anymore. And basically, this is where we track everything. So, in
Yeah.
case you forget something, we just have to go back to these notes and, just check things out. Aside from that, I also have his meeting recording links, just in case he needs something from this day and he needs to review this specific meeting. I do have that on the note as well. So yeah, as you can see on your screen is our Evernote. This is where we kind of communicate with our tasks. If you can see, some of those are already checked out because Ethan already did that.
So
Like, for example,
basically, hot is like has to get done today. Must, if you leave today without this done, I'm going to message you at 6 o'clock. You got to get this done, basically. So, I checked these off because I dealt with them, and I might give a little note, hey, dealt with this, or don't worry about this, just checking it off because it's not important. Whatever. But in terms of how this works, this is what works for us. You might like a slightly different organization strategy, but I do suggest some sort of shared something. It can be a shared spreadsheet. It can be a shared something where you put all these things when they come up in one place. So, for me, I like having hot, medium, cold. Works for me, might not work for you. Notes, these are just general documents I need to just have somewhere. So like these are just things that I'm working on. Here are some boards where we do project management. Here are Boulder sheets, which is basically through EOS. Then here are the things that Kai did. Then here are the sent emails that I sent out without a response yet. And that's basically it. And that strategy works great for us. It might not work perfect for you, but I'm going to share my screen to show this presentation deck for a second, just so everyone can get a snapshot of this. So this is the basics. Hot, medium, cold. Must get done today, must get done this week, must get done eventually and needed on the radar. That to me is how I define these things. Kai will do a nice job of moving things from cold to medium, medium to hot as a day or two or a week go by, so that I don't let something just sit in cold forever. I'm sure you have a list somewhere of must get to this and it just never gets done. You got to gradually move it up a temperature. So Kai, do you think I'm missing anything on how we function with this?
oh no, you just said it perfectly. And I believe this would work if others will also deploy the same strategy. And if they are good with delegating and, are comfortable with delegating their tasks to someone and would be comfortable with someone reminding them of their task, this would work perfectly.
Yeah, and there are people who are not comfortable delegating. So what I would start with is delegate at your own pace and ramp it up as you see that the work is being done right. So maybe it starts with never letting your EAVA respond to an email without you double checking what they're about to say. That's how Kai and I started, but now I permit Kai to do all scheduling emails because I know that that's happening correctly. And what she does on anything sophisticated, she'll say, hey, here's my recommended response to this. Is this okay? Can I send this? And I may say, hey, just tweak this sentence a little bit, or, good to go. And then it just gets pushed out. So it takes time on the comfort level. That's where that 6 months of ramp up really comes in, because I want Kai to respond as me in certain circumstances to keep me out of the weeds on shit I shouldn't be dealing with. But it takes time for that. So I'm just going to run through a few tips that will be helpful. I'm going to share my screen on this presentation. I'm looking to the right at the presentation. I'm not trying to take away eye contact from you. So eat that frog. Start with the shit you hate the most in the day. That's the concept of this. If you don't feel like recording content, go record content first. If you don't feel like sending that one proposal email, knock it out. That's what builds your momentum in the day. These are just general productivity things. So like when I get a list from Kai, even if it's in an order of 6 or 7 things hot, I'm starting with the thing I want to do the least, so I get it done. Let them in everywhere. Your EAVA must have access to everything. At Attorney Assistant and at TKO, for our EAVAs, we put levels of security on their computer, and we're actually moving towards, in Q1 of next year, having every EAVA or VA run through a VPN structure so that there's even extra layers of security. So from an accessibility standpoint, they must have access to your email. They must have access to your Teams or Slack or whatever it is that you do use. That's how they're going to be able to put together your task list of the stuff that you need to address. Embrace ChatGPT. I not only allow Kai to use ChatGPT, I want her to use ChatGPT because it's going to help speed up the process for everybody. Why would I not let her use the most powerful language model on the planet? So if there's an email chain, what Kai does, I assume, I've actually never asked you, but I assume you're doing it like this. You probably copy and paste that whole conversation and say, hey, Ethan said this. Can you please help me structure a response to this email chain? Is that a fair representation of how you handle that?
Yes, basically, if it's something that it's vague for my understanding, I would ask ChatGPT to make it clear for me and to draft a response. And if I'm not satisfied with it, I will just tweak it a little bit just to make sure that it kind of like hits the point. Yep.
Yeah, and she'll put that response in front of me and I will say, looks good or needs a tweak. So you don't have to let your EAVA respond without you seeing what their response is if it's an important response to something. Just take it slow. Regular check-ins. So I want to talk about how I would recommend you ramp it up, especially the first 30, 60, 90 days. So for Kai and I, when we started, we had time on the calendar actually every day, but it turned out to be really 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It started like that for probably the first month. And then that transitioned to twice a week, maybe Tuesday, Thursday. Then it transitioned to every Friday. For us, it works because if I really need something, I'm just going to call her. But because we are so good with our task list now, I don't need to talk to her every day. Maybe once a week on what's coming up next week to prepare for is helpful, but even that sometimes isn't necessary if our calendar looks good and if the task looks good. But I do recommend in the first 45 days, call it at the bare minimum, meet 2 times a week, if not 3 times a week, just to get on the same page when you're scaling. Do you agree with that, Kai?
Yes, because that's the way we worked and it was effective because look at us now. So Ethan and I basically can communicate without actually talking because we do have that task list.
Yep, exactly. So you gotta be having some ramp up expectation. This is kind of what we talked about a few times now. 30 days is pretty realistic for them to really help you get out of the weeds. I can tell you that when you get this task list down and create some B tasks for their downtime, which I'm going to get to shortly, you're going to see a level of productivity you have not experienced before. Make yourself available to approve their work. If you can't get to it every day, at least every other day, you need to be running through your task list because if you don't, no one is. This is a unique role that it is reliant on you, the executive, getting what you need done so that they can get what they need done. And when people ask something of Kai, and Kai says, I'll get you an answer from him today or tomorrow or this week, and that doesn't happen, people will lose trust in your EA, which is going to hurt everything. So if you want people to not come to you, you need to actually do what the EAVA is asking you to do, because if you don't, people are going to continue to come to you. It's going to cause problems. What do you think about that, guy? Is that fair?
Yes, it is. So basically, there are like so many people who comes to me, but I do the filter. Basically, I'm the gatekeeper. I make sure that what reaches Ethan are only the most important and most, you know, necessary information, because not everything is necessary. For instance, someone called, they want to go talk to Ethan. So I would ask them, what is this about? What does this person want? And does Ethan know about this? So if it's not, so I won't let that reach Ethan, because there are so many cold callers everywhere, cold emails everywhere, sales emails, stuff like that. So that is not important. And I would not put that on his plate, because that would waste his time. And I do not want that to happen. So basically, that's kind of it.
Yeah, and I think a fair thing to do so you don't have, because I can kind of hear people saying, well, what if they ignore something that is important? It takes time. Kai might have put something in front of me that I say, hey, next time I don't want to see this shit. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see this kind of email. Just put it in a filter and get rid of it. I don't need to see a cold email for virtual staffing when I own a virtual staffing company. That does not make sense for me to take time on that. I don't need to meet with every lead vendor that I get hit up with, and just ignore those ones. And it took a little time for that. So I recommend let more come through in the beginning and then say, this kind of email, I don't want to see again. Just put it somewhere else. I'm not going to want to look at it. So that you can over time start to build those folder bases, and it's cumulative over time for the right things to get filtered out, because you don't want to filter out the right thing. So other things, be kind. If there are days where I'm frustrated or having a rough day, if I just irrationally took that out on Kai would not want to work for me and be productive for me. So it's just not helpful. I intentionally try to go out of my way to say, you did a nice job on this thing, or I appreciate you, because it's genuine. I genuinely appreciate Kai. I genuinely appreciate the hard work she puts in. And if I did not have her, I'd be doing shit that I hate to do and shouldn't be doing. So just be nice. I think that has been something that has helped my businesses grow is, be stern, be direct, but feedback and candor is kind if it's productive. I may not be happy with something every time it's maybe done a little wrong, but if I don't give the feedback, hey, this thing was done wrong, that's kind of unkind, because you're putting that person in a position to fail and do things that are not good. So giving kind, candor feedback, even if it's something that maybe, is a big deal and maybe actually did cause a big problem, you got to prevent it for the next time. All right. Kai, any piece on this on giving feedback or things like that you think could be helpful?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm also the type of person that does not like flowery words, because it makes me confused. I like Ethan's style because he's direct and he's telling me what he wants for the stuff he wants. And that's how I got to get into my rhythm and to wing things out. And for feedback, I would rather he tell me the God honest truth, because what is it for us when we try to hide things from each other, when we can just get the problem in front of us and solve it by being direct, right? So yeah, Ethan is direct with me, and yes, he is kind. Just wanted to let you guys know, because if you kind of always call your VA for making every single problem, you won't have a VA, an EAVA, to be honest. So yeah, and in terms of feedback, you as an EAVA must also be open for recommendations, any reactions, stuff like that, because
Yep.
you can't make yourself better if you won't hear things from the other side as well. So you gotta hear it from them, and you also need to be able to accept the fact that you are not perfect and there are stuff that needed some improvements, and that is what you need to let your EAVA know so that next time they won't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, and there's a couple of pieces to that I want to touch on. Part one, I want to talk about the culture specifically in the Philippines. Typically, and Kai is atypical this way, but typically, Filipinos are non-confrontational. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, they kind of like
So,
want to save the other person's emotions by covering things up. That's
they're
kind of like
very scared to tell you something that they think maybe will upset you. Very scared. Or maybe they screwed something up and they're worried about your reaction, so they may not want to tell you. So I'm telling you from day one, you need to set the expectation of, hey, if something goes wrong, you are not upsetting me by telling me, you're upsetting me by not telling me. I need to know these things. And you are really helping me by proactively telling me something that maybe would upset me. It's okay for me to get upset. It's not okay for these problems to persist. So I will warn you, if something is a potential landmine or potential big issue, you have to set the culture on day one with your person that it's okay. We're going to get through it. Just tell me, because it's better to tell me than not to tell me. And if you don't explicitly say it and even remind somebody of that frequently, you're going to have shit that is on fire and they're going to be scared to tell you about it, and it's going to cause bigger problems. So set the stage on day one. Set the expectation that you are going to be upset if there's a problem that you're not told about. You're not going to be upset if there is a problem you are told about. And if you flip out on the staff, if you aren't kind, when maybe the problem that happened was their fault, maybe they just made a mistake, that's going to happen. And if you yell at them like, what the hell's wrong with you? I told you to do this way. Guess what? They're never going to tell you about the next thing they did wrong, and you're going to have problems. So be kind, especially when things go wrong. Be hard on the problem, not that person, because they're just trying their best. And if you do flip out on somebody and you aren't saying sorry, you're going to run into way more issues, because culturally, they're going to be extra scared of you now, and they're going to be extra scared of your emotionality, and they're not going to help solve the problems that you hired them for. And they're not going to raise the things that you need to deal with because they're scared of you being stressed out and flipping out. So culturally, just know the Filipinos don't want to upset you. So just let them know you are upsetting me by not telling me things. Is that okay? Is that a fair statement, Kai?
yes, it is.
So other things that are very important. Constantly remind people to go through your EAVA. If you break that rule, and you go to other people, even if they are coming to you, just make sure they're going through them if it's a thing you need to get done, and constantly remind them, hey, go to Kai for this kind of thing. Remind Kai about this. Ask Kai to get some time on my calendar, because that keeps you from doing that shit. Use AI note takers and your EAVA, or at least one or the other or both, depending on the importance of the meeting, as a proxy for you if you cannot make a meeting. So I use a tool called Otter AI. It's actually on here right now. Why do I use Otter AI? I like it because it follows me to any kind of meeting. It follows me on a Google Meets. It follows me on a Zoom. It follows me on a Teams meeting. And I like the adaptability of it like that. It also has great transcriptions. And after I get off of a meeting, Kai takes that transcription and the notes from the AI and places it somewhere that I want it. That's just how I like to do it. Maybe you like to go check it out in the app. That's fine too. But I recommend getting an AI proxy that follows you around or is on your calendar. And at the bare minimum, if there's an important meeting, at the bare minimum, that proxy goes on there for you, or you send your EAVA on that meeting for you, or both. Be direct with feedback. We kind of cover this. If you are not happy with the work, you need to give the feedback, or it will keep happening. Come up with some downtime projects or rainy day projects. This is what waving into Arizona was for me. I'm also working on an AI book right now. that will be sort of written by AI, sort of written by a copywriter, and edited by me. These are some downtime projects. The final why. If you hate being stuck in the weeds on the shit you should not be doing, email, booking calendars, booking flights, booking hotels, setting up lunches, one-off bullshit, and you want a reasonable, economical approach on how to get out of the weeds on things, consider a virtual EAVA as a starting point. If you consider this, it will get you out of the weeds on the things you should not be doing. So this should cover basically everything that I use Kai for. I only sell things that I am actually doing. I have gotten genuine value out of getting out of the weeds on these tasks, and I strongly recommend, whether it's through us or in general, getting an executive assistant that you trust to get you out of these things if you want to continue growing your business. Kai, any last words for anybody that watches this?
So basically, guys, I would dare you to hire an EAVA as trust me, it would make your work life and personal life easier. As Ethan, do you agree?
I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. Because not only your EAVA will, bend over backwards for you, they will even do stuff that you won't ask them to do just to make sure that, every base is covered and, um, there are no more pending tasks for you and they are available every single time you ask them to. And yep, basically that's it. And that's coming from me already. And I would, yeah, famous last words. This is the life of an EAVA from a training assistant.
Thank you.